All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. Obviously, this is an unscheduled meeting. We normally take the months of July and Civic League meetings, as well as December, to allow for some family fun. This year, because of the uptick in crime and the concerns about safety in the neighborhood, we decided to get together and have a meeting. And thanks to Casey White, who's our neighborhood safety committee chair, and the person behind the idea of having a neighborhood safety committee. We're going to do this in town hall style format, right? So before we get started, in case it kind of lines out some of the objectives for tonight, I just wanted to introduce a few key people that are here. First of all, we have Councilwoman Andrea McClellan.
That was just last year, right?
All right, we have Tanya Senior from the school board, who is also a neighbor. And then we have some folks here from the police department and Lieutenant Lackenbacher.
So I'm Lieutenant Dan Lottenbecker. I brought along with me Master Police Officer Chuck Trier. He's the Community Resource Officer for this area. Also brought Sergeant Chris Keir with me. He's going to be the sergeant for the robbery squad. And also Captain Vic Vargas is floating around somewhere. Should be coming in the door probably briefly. So he's here with us.
Good. And so I want to keep the formality as short as possible, but I just wanted to invite Kate up to just give a quick update about what the Civic League's events for the next couple of months.
Hi everyone. Super quick update about what we have coming up for social and volunteer opportunities. In September, we have scheduled scheduled resident meeting on the 15th. We have a neighborhood happy hour that is going to be September 20th, and we're still working out the details as far as time, but we have some help. On October 15th, we're doing our quarterly and stock cleanup. We have the corner for packaging ready. We have all the supplies, gloves, trash grabbers, bags, and things kind of clean up along the year in West End. Then the much anticipated Focus pumpkin party with the addition of another chili dog. So that's going to be in October. We're still working on for that. And then nothing scheduled for November, and then in December we are doing the tree lighting with October. So those are the events that are coming up, and then we'll have a big newsletter, and then we have some details and volunteer on the newsletter.
Thank you.
So with that, I just like to invite Casey up and we're going to do a little.
Thank you so much for being here. Maybe let's go to the goals. Well, maybe let's do the agenda up first. I'll try to be
I'm
brief.
going to shut the lights off here for a second so you can see the screen.
Yeah. Can we do it full screen or, oh yeah, that's a fun. Can everybody sort of see it? So we just wanted to do welcome, and we're going to go over some of the meeting goals, and then I'm going to just kind of flip things on its head because we wanted to do a town hall style event. We're going to do a little bit of like a conversation flow exercise where we're going to answer the question, what would make Westgate a safer community? And really what I'm going to do is get up the whiteboard and the lights go up, and everybody's just going to sort of talk about like one word, one phrase, a short phrase, or it can be really anything that you think is a positive idea or will be a positive influence on safety in Westgate. And we can do it on a micro level, and if you feel there's some macro stuff that we want to sort of share about Norfolk in general, we can also do that. But just to sort of break the ice and get a flow for what for what people are thinking and where our conversation can go when we see questions. And I'm gonna give a little bit of an update on our safety campaign and kind of share with you our flyer that we're passing around, trying to get on every single door in West Ghent. And then we'll have a little bit of a crime stats update, and then dedicate time to resident questions and suggestions, because that's what we're really here to do. So here's our goals. Our next slide, please, sir. Oh, yes, here it is. Okay, so our goals for this evening is to collaborate as a community and brainstorm proactive solutions that we can all really get behind, that can really solve some of our safety challenges that we're having here in West Ghent. We're going to learn a little bit more about tonight. We really want to activate every single person in attendance tonight to take 2 actions when you leave this room to improve safety in West Ghent and also the broader community in Norfolk, because we cannot forget that we kind of live in this nice little bubble, and we've had it pop a little. And I think it's important for us to, think about how the ways that we impact safety in our neighborhood actually have a ripple effect and can improve the safety in other neighborhoods too. That's a really important goal of our league, is to sort of work with other leagues and work together to further models and ideas that work. And finally, we're going to generate some focused questions and ideas from you guys, the residents, that we can share with our leadership, so that we can increase our local partnerships and the efficiency of how we communicate together and work together on solutions, because it's all about collaboration. So that is what we're here to do today. So let's get started on our little word activity, and we'll just spend like 10 minutes doing that. And that'll kind of focus our conversation, and then we'll kind of move on from there to what our safety campaign is going to do after tonight. Okay. Yeah. So the question we're asking is, what is 1 or 2 things that you can think of, a word or phrase that you feel like would make West Ghent safer? Whenever you're ready, shout it out. Oh yeah, that's a good one. I rode New York City subways for 11 years, and that was a really big memory. So this is a big thing.
Yours one.
From chat, more police.
Numbers.
How about hear something, do something? How about eyes on the street?
That's a big part of our safety push.
Neighborhood watch.
And we'll have an opportunity to go into the more in depth later. We're just kind of getting where we're at.
Just to be outside.
Yeah. I don't agree. I feel like that's kind of similar to that.
From chat, no MHI parking on our streets.
I'm sorry, one more time.
No MHI parking on our streets.
Okay.
So just we're gonna do the standard introduction. So we're doing this both via Zoom and here in person in the room. So we've got a pretty group online as well. Thank you for commenting from out there in the virtual world.
From chat, more street lights, keep porch lights on.
More lights in general is like a big push. So when we just have the street light in front of our house replaced, and it is 20 times brighter than whatever was in there. It's incredible. I have to have blackout lunch. More lights in general, like that.
About some lines up in Jeff Roberts in the park. There's no lines that actually go in the park.
You're right.
So, very fun.
Are there places in Green Lake Courts? Does anybody know? Because that's a similar situation.
The regular street light.
I'll do that. Just so we can check.
Upgrade the street lights with bright LEDs. No, right. That will ruin the neighborhood.
I know there's some powerful.
Yep, from chat, cameras throughout the neighborhood. Another from chat, close the access to the park at night at Armistead Bridge Road and Gates. Also from chat, instruct us on how to get things picked up on our home video to police.
Yeah.
Help about neighborhood watch program.
I think that would be, did have a meeting with Omar.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine.
Fast notification of issues.
Sorry, fast notification of issues to, like authorities or to like, where's
I was thinking more to the neighbor.
to neighbors. Can I just see the show of hands of who uses like next door to say to the safety stuff? Next door that. Okay, just curious. So fast notification to neighbors.
We received 2 yeses from chat.
About text was similar to that.
Text list for the neighbors, like concern.
If the next door could be an elevator, you hear about it all.
Yeah, that's true. Or the next day.
Yeah, they're just chatting.
Feeling good? Anything sort of else? Susan? Yeah, yeah. Yes, I think that's what we're kind of all leaders now, sort of saying, oh, well, we don't have this things that well, quickly. So here we are.
More from chat, police instructions for practices on best practices for safe in our neighborhoods. Also, this, they said it was previously discussed years ago, part of private security company, like Lockhaven does.
Perhaps a blockade of this practice. Yeah, yeah, people coming into the neighborhood, yeah. Yeah.
And the very, so we had an issue with, if we would be started, is that one, gentlemen? Some one of them, there's like,
And I was even thinking like MHI, where we have a real issue with seating, with litter, with just general things that generally make things like less safe. So I'm thinking about, well, maybe we ask, MHI to provide a little education around, that's practice.
And I think we contact, I mean, folks who are working on it,
Yeah.
the thing that they instruct them and the things that.
I will leave that on our safety list, our flyer list, and I'll pass that around in case somebody has a comment on it. All right. You guys feel pretty good? Good, Kurt. So really, I'm just to pass around, this is our safety flyer that we've done. So I'll start passing around our French, so you can have a look at it. Basically, these are going to take to every single door in the neighborhood. It's 2 pages. And the first page is a list of repeat crimes that occur in the neighborhood. Some of them are as wild as you would not expect it. So a lot of handguns get stolen from vehicles in our neighborhood and used in the commission of crimes in Norfolk. And a lot of those are reported, so there's really difficult time tracing those. So, there's a lot of, just really are repeated crimes, and then some of that crime deterrence. And then we're going to give you really a little bit of update on kind of where we're at in the neighborhood and the goal of the flyer, the citizens online reporting system, the non-emergency and emergency phone lines, also contact for NPD. And then there's just 8 simple, straightforward, affordable things that we're asking everybody, not all 8 of them, just get 1 to 3 of them, whatever fits your budget and your time frame. But it's really very practical things that you can do when you leave your home or when you're at home to keep, like we're saying, to stay outside, to keep your eyes and ears alert, to be really aware of your surroundings and to have access to the vicinity. We created a new safety email address. And what this does is we want you to report any mischief to NPD. That's very critical so that they keep it in their tallies. But you should also let the civic league know, because there might be something that you don't feel really comfortable reporting to the NPD, because maybe, oh, I noticed a lot of people, did that really happen, or can I trust my memory? But if something weird happened, just email us, so it'll help us know what's going on in the neighborhood, what's occurring, and how we can focus our efforts. So I think right now we've made a lot of requests to leadership who's been, all of you guys have been so wonderful to like get back to us and respond to us. And so a few things that we're doing, Silas, that are open for us to share sort of, I think what we've asked for are cameras. I know there's a lot of lock cops. Is that what you guys call them? Lock cops, like the security cameras on Granby Street?
Okay, so.
Fuller cameras, okay.
But just to say.
Okay. Well, I think residents have been so supportive of that technology, and something that feels like, oh, even if our patrols are down a little, there's still footage, there's still a deterrent. And we just have entry point problems all over the neighborhood. So people dip in, do their damage, and dip right back out. So we're using highways. So I think cameras are something that we were, really supportive of, but we can't make any promises. That's why we're kind of coming together here today and kind of saying, well, what do we want as residents? What are our solutions that we can offer, and what will we all support? So we need helpers to get these on the front doors. I have done hundreds of those, and it's really great because you get out and you see everybody, and you meet with everybody, and you really understand what's going on in it. So tonight we want you to share what's happening in the block, share if there's anything maybe we're not aware of, like in our safety update, and then share with us what you think you can do to solve it, and if there are any really pernicious problems that we can, give us, because that's really important to us, that we are a resource for you guys too, and that we can, sort of work together in collaboration with leadership, and people are all doing something. Yeah. So, okay. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the apartment from the company. That would be very helpful for us. Some of the condo buildings and apartments you have into.
Or so we don't know why.
Or yeah, some of them are ready. How many? So
I was like,
it would be helpful.
and I also just wanted to note the second page of security badges, it really, this is just a way for you to say, after I've taken 2 or 3 of these steps, cut this out and tape it in your front window, just so we know you've done your house, you've covered your responsibility to our community, you've, helped a neighbor perhaps who needs assistance installing those solar lights or getting their backyard, more well lit. Be of assistance to your neighbor. That's super important. And so at the bottom of this, you put no valuables too far. And I know we all kind of get to a new habit, but the hope is that you just stick this in your dashboard or in your window as a way to remind yourself, take all your valuables on your car, and yes, that's that. It's out coming to
See,
yes.
I mean, it may actually be in.
I thought that.
It may actually be in the flyer or someplace else that I'm totally clueless about. But I did a few months ago, had my car stolen. And that when it happened, I said, I gotta call the police. So who are you gonna call? Well, obviously, I wasn't gonna call 911. It really didn't seem to be that important. But I didn't have readily available. Who in the police do you call when you have something that's not an emergency issue, but you need to notify the police? And I found it on the Norfolk City website, but it wasn't intuitively obvious, and even the number I picked wasn't intuitively obvious to me that it was the right number. I got a hold of the person, and it went smoothly from there. The police department did an excellent job getting right back to me and in the whole matter. So, and it was, it ended up, that was a happy ending. It took about 10 days, but it came out a happy ending.
Gosh.
Well,
Well,
I appreciate you saying that, and so I think when we do the crime update here, is that the next thing on the?
I believe so, Scott.
Yeah, so I think we'll give a quick update on Lieutenant Doctor brought a quick West Kent specific crime update for us, just so that everyone's at least aware of what we're talking about. I'm not sure how many people are checking the city's crime mapping website, so we'll do that here, just specific West Ghent.
I'm actually, because of this point, I'm gonna add one thing, like a number that's not emergent, that's like 911. Which I think we're seeing more of like 988 is like mental health emergency now, so maybe that's a good section.
Yeah. I won't put the lights off on.
Well, and it was a good number, and then very, very responsive, it wasn't intuitively obvious.
I get it.
I need intuitively obvious. Did you tell us what that number?
It is on the flyer.
So we'll know what's on here. Hi.
Basically on the flyer, on the badges that we cut out, put in the windows, put in the car names, just put a smaller corner one that you put up on your fridge that has like physically what. And non-emergency numbers, so it's something equally to cut out from the fridge.
You have our next sprint, no, we don't need to so.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll hear you.
All right, I'm gonna shut the lights off, so that we stay out on the door. I'm gonna let you guys be able to see. Number 2. All right, so, like I said before, my name is Lieutenant Dan Linebacker, and just wanted to come with you, this PowerPoint, talk about some crime trends that we're seeing, and these crime trends are specific to West Ghent neighborhoods. We go to the next slide. So what we're going to look at is year-to-date crime stats, so January 1st to August 23rd, and then we're going to look at the 5-year and then year-to-date trend charts for violent crime, property crime, and just total overall crime. All right, so I made this as small as possible. So like you guys can have a really hard time sitting down. So let's go ahead. These slides will break down that bigger slide. So what we're seeing this year, year to date, with violent crime in West Ghent is that we're up for violent crimes. So that's a significant number for this neighborhood. Seeing that last year there was only 2 for the entire year, year to date. So what are some of the issues that are driving violent crime? So it's just so we're tracking something, so like for the number, the bar was for last year, that would have been like January 1st through August 23rd.
Yeah, so these stats are all going to be January 1st to August 23rd. So what's driving some of our crime stats, especially our violent crime stats? I think we're still feeling the effects of the pandemic. So we are still experiencing a lot of people are at home. There's still a lot of people that are desperate and still kind of driving towards these more violent type of crimes. All right, so unfortunately, we're now on the tail end of that pandemic, and now people are starting to go back to work. People are starting to leave their homes, and they're starting to be a little bit more relaxed with what they used to secure a little bit more with their homes, cars. And so now we're seeing the numbers for property crime going up as well.
And what are considered property crimes?
So your car being broken into, guns being stolen out of cars, burglaries. So when your house gets broken into, those are all examples of property crimes.
Stolen car goes in that.
Stolen cars when right now, so if your stolen car was a property crime, and it's going to be one of those numbers there.
Would you attribute the rise of what's in here to purely to more crime happening or more reporting?
So what I would say is it's probably a little bit of both. Some of the issues that we're seeing with the property crime, and I'll speak a little bit more specifically on stolen autos, right? What we're seeing is people are leaving vehicles running outside of their homes. They're cooling their cars off or heating their cars up in the wintertime. They're running into 7-Elevens. They're kind of being irresponsible with their cars. Well, individuals are taking advantage of that and jumping in the cars and taking them, taking off with them. Unfortunately, even though you have that key fob with you, that individual that has stolen your car can still ride around in your car until either A, they turn it off, or B, it runs out of gas. So then they can do what they want with that car. Also, we're seeing some irresponsible gun ownership, where individuals are leaving guns unsecured in their cars. And those are getting stolen when cars are left unlocked. And so.
How many of those are?
Go ahead.
So that's come up, I've heard it tonight a couple of times about the, guns being stolen in the car. So can you, and so I think that as you being intentional about mentioning that, so how frequently are you seeing that? And what are the repercussions for the gun owner neighbor who is leaving their car unlocked with a gun?
Sure. So to my knowledge, there's new legislation on the books that allows us to enforce that
You have to report.
when it's not reported. Yeah.
To the police.
So
But that doesn't have anything to do with like, you're not responsible if the gun's got stolen, that's still not like that.
No, but the problem is, and I apologize.
no, go ahead, please.
So many of these guns, which are used in crimes, are stolen guns, and you have gun owners who have their guns stolen who are not reporting them. So there needs to be a ability to be able to track that mechanism, and that's why that legislation is put in place. So if we do have a gun, one, it should be in a gun safe. Yes, we all know that. Two, we need to have a serial number, information about that gun. Three, it should not be within your car.
Yeah, and then I was going to go into that. When I get home, and it might have something to do with I have a 3-year-old daughter, but as soon as I get home, my gun goes right into the same. I mean, there's no deviating from that practice, and so that should be, if you're going to be a gun owner, that should be a practice that you have as well. Is that gun goes into a safe, not being left in a car, on a table, on a couch, or anything like that. So be responsible with your ownership of that gun if you choose to own a gun.
A question from chat regarding that. Can you speak to what people are primarily looking for when they're rifling through cars? Person had somebody rifle through their car 2 nights ago, but nothing was taken. And are they just looking for guns?
Sure, I would say any number of things. You could go from guns to loose change to dollar bills to anything that an individual would find as value. So it goes the gambit of things.
Do you have any more slides? Because I want to.
We do.
Okay, because that was going to.
We can go into some more questions.
Yeah.
Try and push through some of these.
I just wanted to ask, I can't read the numbers there, the number of the property crime, that's in there.
81. 80. That's total crimes. That's, yes, we're at total crime.
I just can't read the numbers.
That's going to be violently in property for January 1st, August 23rd, West Ghent Civic. All right, so what we're seeing, thank God, is no fatal or non-fatal shootings in the West Ghent neighborhood. So, and that is all the way from 2018 through this year, January 1st to August 1st.
Would you say it's normal or abnormal for any place type of neighborhood?
Well, based on the statistics, it's normal for this neighborhood. But based on the other statistics that we've been seeing is that violent crime is affecting every neighborhood. And that is, something that I think all of us as a community are trying to grapple with, and that's why we're here tonight. All right, so these are the 10-year crime statistics. Kind of gives you a little bit more of an idea of what we're looking at overall. So now this is the full years. So, you kind of see the ebbs and flows of the crime, total violent crime over the years. And we no, this is going to be over the entire city. It's going to be citywide. And we can kind of go through some. So you see property crime kind of goes up and down.
Actually got a good trend.
Yeah, and so total crime, I mean, you can see there's some good years here in Norfolk where we're seeing total crime going down. And then, we're going to have some peaks. 2016, you had some peaks. 12 and 13 absentees.
So I just want to know that the last bar in each of these will, is that 2021 and 2022?
So that's 2021.
Sorry, so recognizing the update that we see in 2022.
It's not there yet. Okay. All right, and then this is going to be our 10-year crime statistics for homicides. Homicides across the country are up, and that is a very unfortunate statistic. I spent several years as a homicide investigator, and so luckily when I was there, it was towards the lower end. So I didn't have to experience it when it was at the higher end, but I was a robbery sergeant when we were at the higher end. So this is a number that is just uncomprehendable to me. And something that so anyway.
Do the police recognize lowering of personnel as being a factor, or the number of personnel being decreased drastically as being a factor in the crime?
So I don't think anybody can say or not say that the less amount of police officers on the street is not affecting the amount of crime, right? I think that, I think it's just obvious here. All right, so these are the robbery statistics over the last 10 years. And then larceny statistics. And then your stolen vehicles. Yeah. But so, and I want to touch on that real quick. And you kind of scroll through the rest.
I think that's right at the end.
Okay. All right, so what is the police department doing to address that, right? That exact issue of our staffing right now, okay? So back in December of last year, we went from 3 precincts to 2 precincts, which allowed for more officers to get in the street. That changed the makeup of our sectors, right? So right now we have 2 precincts. Within those precincts, we have 3 sectors. And then within those sectors, we have districts, car districts, okay? So you guys are in the blue sector, and I'm a lieutenant for the blue sector. So kind of like, and I equate it to the 90s when Apple did, right? Apple was headed for bankruptcy. So what they did is they said, hold on, we got to focus on our core. So they started cutting out some stuff. So in July of this year, what the police department did was something similar. We took a lot of our administrative folks and brought them back to the patrol division, the precinct. And so we have more officers on the streets patrolling the streets, right? Our core functions are the patrol division. So you have officers in cars and detectives investigating felony crimes. So I mean, those are the 2 core functions of any police department. We all agree on that. So that is some of the responses to the issues that we're dealing with right now with our staff, right? You have 2 of us, myself and Officer Clear, as your civic lead go-tos, okay? There's 21 neighborhoods in those civic leads that we are responsible for. So between the 2 of us, we reach out to our friends and get them to come out and help out. Maybe not friends, but yeah, but anyway, so we're all banding together to do the best we can to try to give you guys the best, services and to limit the impact that we're seeing and feeling, as best we can. There's been a push with recruiting so that we can get more officers in. We have recruiting efforts going out in cities that are less friendly to their officers and trying to get them to come to this city where our city government is more friendly our officers. So we're trying to tap on some of those nerves up there to try to bring them down, which has been, something that's been working. We've got national marketing campaigns going out. I don't know if you guys heard, Scott was saying earlier, he heard it at NPR. I just saw on our Facebook page that there has been a consulting company that was hired to search for a new chief. So hopefully that will, come to fruition soon. There's going to be some meetings that they're going to get the community involved in, get some input and some feedback into what you guys want or are looking for in a chief. So that's kind of some exciting stuff. So even with the numbers being down, we're still pushing forward. So
I just want to, second interject real quick. Just want to publicly thank you for when we had a couple violent crimes within the last few weeks. It's really the first time we talked is in the wake of that. And I said, look, I recognize you're down on police, you're down a third or 30%, something like that, right? We clearly need more presence in the neighborhood, but I know I'm asking you for your most scarce resource right now, right? And I just want to make everyone clear to everyone that he has made it a commitment to when officers aren't on calls, to be to have a presence somewhere in the neighborhood. So that's not all the time. It's not. You can't predict when that's going to be because we don't know when the calls are going to come in. But I don't know if you've noticed, but I have definitely noticed significantly more presence in the neighborhood as late of 3 weeks or something.
Yes, and that's great. I'm really glad you guys noticed that. That's something that MPO Dreer has been spending a lot more time, and he's not involved with other activities in this neighborhood. The district car has been mandated that when they're not on call service, they are in and around this neighborhood, and then we're also tracking, contracting times per year, and actions that they take, so that I kind of keep up with what how much time you're spending. Some of the efforts, but yeah. No.
So, that's what you mentioned earlier, and as we know from, what's going on across the country, a lot of these understanding of why these crimes are occurring and why crime is going up is really important. And as you said earlier, to spare, it's part of it is loss of income, loss of, so, I don't know if you can answer this question, but a broader question that I have that perhaps, our city leaders are looking at and can answer is, what are we doing about, creating jobs, filling jobs, increasing pay, providing other social supports, those are all perhaps more important to solve those issues. So
I'll finish that. So, I think what you're hearing are, there are short-term, what are we gonna do right now? Right, and that's what these folks are doing really well. And then there's the longer-term issues, and these are societal issues, folks. These are not things that we can flip a switch and make happen tomorrow. One of the things that I just came from a meeting, talking about violence interrupters and credible sources in our community, because the fact of the matter is, so we have the city of Norfolk, we have within the city of Norfolk where some of the crimes happening, we have within that more crime, and then we have just a nugget of really bad crime. A couple of folks that we know, these guys know who they are, that we gotta get to, we gotta figure out how to get to. So that's where the violence interrupters come in and the credible sources. So we're doing that, working with our federal partners and our state partners, because Lord knows these guys are overtaxed as it is. We're trying to figure out how do we do those things too. So it's sort of a short-term, near-term, long-term. Tanya, to your point, working with the school systems, working to make sure that we have affordable housing, making sure that we have opportunities, jobs. I just co-chaired the mayor's commission on social equity and economic opportunity. Those are all things that are included in here. But if I live in Muscat, and I don't know Colorado yet, I don't feel comfortable walking a dog at night. And that's why you guys are here, right? Yes, we have to do all these long terms, and we are. But right now, and that's what, so Casey, thank you for the work that you're doing, Scott, Kate, I mean, I want you all to feel comfortable coming home from the airport and taking your luggage in. Let me just follow for what it is, right? I don't know that we can police our way out of that. We all have to be careful. And we all have to work together, and I really appreciate Scott and I talked about this in advance, was, I'm here to listen, because I want to hear from you all, what are the solutions that you all see that we could be doing more of? Some of which we can do and some of which we can't. And we can't put a camera on every corner. But we are looking and investigating new technology that will allow us to put more cameras throughout the city. So that is coming. But anyway, I really appreciate this civically in particular, that you all are taking such an active role here and not just getting on next door. Playing cheap.
Oh, we do that too.
I really think that you all have done a great job, and it's gonna take a while to right a ship. A lot of this is just society's bonkers right now. And it's not doing Norfolk, and that doesn't matter. You just want to be able to walk down your street. I get it. I feel the same way. My 17-year-old leaves. But when I get on the highway and go to see my aunt in Virginia Beach, I don't want to get shot. We've had 8 people shot on our highways since June 1st. I mean, they caught somebody doing 154 miles an hour 2 weeks ago. I don't know if it was in Norfolk or whatever, somewhere on 64. I mean, this is what we're doing right now. And it is bonkers. And it's going to take us a while. Some of the pandemic is this stuff's going to be baked in for a while. So we all have to be more vigilant, and we have to help and support the folks who are doing a great job on the short term, and we have to help and support the folks who are doing a great job on the long term. I'm looking to our school board member here, because that's a big piece of it as well. And as your city council rep, let us know what you want us to be doing. And we can't do everything, but we do want to hear from you. So that's what we're doing.
Could I make a brief statement related to that? Absolutely. Okay. 8 or 10 years, I'm across the border. I live on 1100 block of Redgate. If you pull over, I'm in the construction code. If I pull out at 6:30 in the morning, every morning someone within 5 seconds parks in my spot. If I go home for lunch, there's no parking on Redgate Avenue. Now, 8 to 10 years ago, we were promised by MHI that no personnel would park on Redgate or in the West End. Now we're inundated with traffic. So if we solve the traffic issue, I think that will lessen the crowd in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So let me just, so it is absolutely a consistent, concern of neighbors in the neighborhood about the parking, especially down here in the southern part of the neighborhood, 100%. One thing I want to make sure that everyone's clear on is there has been no direct connection between some of these crimes and MHI police. So let's be clear on it. I'm not saying it's not, but there has not been a connection, right? So I think that we need to be open to the idea that that's a misguided act.
But I will also say, I will also say that when I was flyering Redgate Avenue, there were a lot of concerns from residents about finding mini bottles on the street a lot. So there's a lot of and a lot of people mentioned oh, we believe that people are drinking and driving, and there's speeding issues too. So I understand what you're saying. There's definitely some sort of connection between a ton of people being in a place or ordering at the 7-Eleven or whatever, and then surrounding kind of parking issues or drinking, driving or whatever. So literally we have a lot, so I appreciate I appreciate it.
One, if you didn't get a chance to see it, I recommend you watch it. We had a civic league meeting, and they're all on our website and YouTube videos. We had a discussion about the parking thing, so we just want to remind everyone as I'm here on Zoom and to be on YouTube. Every individual block has the opportunity to begin a residential parking permit program. It is, I forget there's some critical mass of people that live on a block.
75%.
75% of the residents on any given block have the opportunity to apply to the city for the RPPP and can get residential parking signs put up. I will tell you that, and I'll reiterate some of the points that I learned through that conversation several months ago is that is not going to cause more parking enforcement. That is another critical resource. So what you might find in the near term is if you do the RPP on your block, when your cousin comes to visit you in parks, he's gonna get towed, but an MHI employee is on there every single day are not gonna get towed. So you know, the good comes with the bad. And so we need to advocate for a higher volume of parking enforcement throughout the neighborhood. Right now, there are no permitted areas in West End or in Chelsea. And Jason, thank you for being here for the Chelsea Business Association. Aaron, thank you for being here. I'm sorry, Aaron. Yeah, sorry. They have a spotty record for the enforcement of the permitted parking in Chelsea. So I don't know if you want to share what your perspective is.
Yeah, I can kind of tie it together. So because there's a couple of things to talk about here. There's use of public space, right? Which is the parking issue. And that's something that it's an enforcement issue, but it's also a compression issue. There's just to speak to the technicals of it a little bit, there's a lot of people coming down to Chelsea because there's a lot of work to be done. And so getting all of those people there on time in the right place, it doesn't happen, I think, the way any of us would like, and that's just something that we're actively working on. Are we going to do better with transit? Are we going to add more parking? You guys have heard that there's a large development going in the Norfolk Southern state. So that's part of the conversation. How do we scale again? And it addresses the question of economic opportunity. When you have a lot of people compressed together, you need some kind of service, you need some kind of infrastructure to keep things running harmoniously. And Chelsea is figuring that out, right? On the West End side of things, part of the reason that I'm here is I want to see the perspective of the neighborhood, because the streets in Chelsea, and Officer Drew, correct me if I'm misinterpreting, we had a conversation last Monday that started with talking about safety and ended up talking about parking and transit. And there are a lot of people, there's a lot of contractors, subcontractors, employees, folks that are like uniform, active duty down in Chelsea. And there's actually very little property crime, violent crime. There's a lot of litter, there's a lot of trash, there's a lot of neglect, but there's not a lot of crime because we have eyes in the street. So I wanted to see what it looks like on the residential side, and it's almost like we're looking at flip sides of the equation. It hasn't gotten to Princess Anne yet. Or
We're close, right?
it hasn't gotten there yet.
We're hoping that it doesn't.
Correct.
So what happened? When MHI first came into existence, we were told that they were going to be buzzing their employees. I don't see it buzz at all. And also, it has been suggested with Fairwinds, they're going to get rid of that parking lot where MHI parks now. Where are those people?
It'd be structured parking. It would cover not only MHI, but also Fairwinds, possibly taking the 7-Eleven from where it is now, relocating it into that. So the idea is to possibly to mitigate significantly the situation. But I mean, and I don't want to suggest, Scott Casey, this is your meeting, but I think the parking issue in MHI is another separate issue, which absolutely needs to be addressed. And we hear you, I hear it all the time, but I want to make sure that we've got 4 of our NPD folks here who probably don't want to hear about parking and want to hear more about what your issues are related to crime. So
Interconnected.
it is.
Really bringing up is so interconnected, and like our safety action plan is trying to hit with the, we can only hit with so big of a hammer, but it's like, like we're talking about time, it's like, all of our hygiene pantries, all of our little free food pantries that are over the Lutheran church, they are rated daily. They are gone daily. My friend owns Eleanor's Bookshop, and she has a hygiene pantry out there, and she spends hundreds of dollars a month keeping that stocked because people are in need. And so there's things that we can do that are very, very basic and very, very human, but also recognizing in a well-governed society, we don't rely on charity to bail one another out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be, like you're saying, proper jobs, no food deserts, like all these things that we're talking about are like the societal level. But I want to definitely make sure that we're talking about Westgate tonight and like what's going on in your blocks and your neighborhoods that maybe we're missing, or what questions you guys have for the FPD, and definitely get to the parking safety stuff. Big time.
I'll around with the direct question, Chelsea with the question of neglect. So neglect in Chelsea looks like a lot of people, less crime, more trash. Neglect in Weston looks like not a lot, more crime, maybe less trash. But I'm seeing the same thing, and I'm here asking for solutions, like how do we, there's a network of care, or there's a framework, there's an infrastructure of care that I want to see that we're here to build. I don't know how, but I'm a business owner. I'm willing to put some resources towards this. I think what Eleanor's doing is a great start.
Yeah, it's just, you know, citizens should be aware. Do you guys have any sort of start? Yeah.
So it's a big concern for me. So, my friend and I were on at 5 o'clock. We've seen a increase in the number of cars that are circling the neighborhood, going in the wrong direction on grades and the wrong direction on plan lines. Several times we have like tried to just see what's going like, you know, sometimes we've heard things in the car and actually been concerned. And we've been met with intimidation tactics by a car. They will slow down and follow us until we turn a corner and then speed off. And it's impossible to get license plate information. From what we can tell and what we've heard from like our other friends in the neighborhood is that people are patrolling and looking for open vehicle and crime opportunity. So I like the idea of the cameras on the street. We've installed cameras in our house, but the angles to cover the front door and the gate, you can't really see what's going on the street. So how do we create a network where because I mean, no one wants to get 4 o'clock in the morning patrolling the streets, I mean, or 5 a.m. How do we create a network where we can use the resources that people are already using in their homes, such as safety cameras, and maybe some more cameras within the neighborhoods to catch these individuals, or at least get information on, you know, their license plate numbers and stuff like that we can then pass on to you guys to maybe figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit that one. And so, city council and police department are making significant investment in technology. Some of that, if not a great deal of that, is going to be investment in cameras. It's the things that do what we're talking about, the integration of cameras that allow us to pull camera feeds for businesses, for residents and stuff like that. So we actually have a meeting Tuesday to discuss the products that some of our sister cities are using that integrates what you're talking about, how citizens get involved, and allow us to use cameras that you all purchase and what you all use. So the technology exists, and I'll tell you 100%. Council and police department are going to put a significant amount of infrastructure in place to do those things. I think it's very good. Yeah, so what the product that we're talking about, other products that Cal is talking about, it's called Flock. So that, you know, that's something you all will look into. It integrates a lot of great technology into a very great, a good package for us. So it allows our IT folks at the discretion, to management to the council to integrate this camera with us, the police department, and so we can monitor those as well. And do some really cool advanced stuff with other cities, because we know that crime is transient, and the folks that can be crime in Norfolk are also can be crime.
Would it be helpful if we put together a list of people volunteering or a list to send in secretly the ring cameras and other security cameras and the address, and then you guys just had it, and so if something went down, you could you could reach out, like, the manual way, if you will, or like.
Yes, we do that with ring mounts. We partner with Ring. So if we have a crime in an area that we think has Ring cameras, we'll send out an alert to your Ring app that says, hey, let us know if your camera is caught here. So that was kind of the first step to this as it pertains to technology.
Has anybody got that alert here?
So I don't have a Ring camera, I've got an off-brand camera. So that's why I was just curious, like, is there anything that you can do as this neighborhood to help you out better?
So you have a sign up, right, where you can register your camera, where it is, where it looks on the Norfolk website?
Correct. So you can go to the police website and you can actually register your camera with us. And then I'm also going to tell you that any crime that's committed anywhere in the city, we're going to have a pretty robust presence of police when we do it. So they're going to knock on your door, they leave their card if they see a camera, and then either they're going to follow up with you or you can just give them a call and say, look, I do have a camera, I'm going to see them a call.
Which I've had in my house at least twice now.
Yeah, so canvassing is a big thing for us, right? So we do a canvass for every crime we investigate, whether it be a stolen auto, whether it be whatever it is. You're going to see those officers out here doing that canvass to follow up. You might see Drew do the follow up on canvass for us, depending on what it is. So, we talked a little bit about how many officers we have, and I'll tell you, we're doing a great job with folks. We really are. Investigative wise and control wise, but I will tell you that I think for this organization and for the city, technology is really a game changer for us and some things that you're going to see very soon.
Is there any way to address their concerns or any existing response? So I've heard several neighbors ask about cars circling the neighborhood. Like, this has been a neighborhood that, like, it's kind of a cul-de-sac of Norfolk, right? So it's not a natural thing for someone to just be circling the neighborhood. Is there a way to?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you to call the non-emergency number. I'm going to tell you, I'm encouraged to call the emergency. So
Yeah. Whenever I'm running, I can call them.
yeah, it's where that's what we want. So what people doing is having those interactions. So I don't want you to put property in the land, right? So the issue is that how unfortunate it is to have your car stolen. I can tell you that from experience. It's not fun, right? But what makes it more catastrophic is that I'm going to go stop somebody from stealing this property and in turn taking my life in my own hands because unfortunately you don't know what other people's intentions are. It may start out as a simple property crime, and then when faced with you get arrested, they may do other things. That's where it's that right? You can have my stuff. Give me a favor, bring it in my house. Just give me a favor, leave my dog alone, and don't hurt my family. That's how it works, right? So I will tell you, we put a bunch of negative numbers up there, right? To a point, the crime is up. I will also tell you that your burglaries are significantly down, right? So you're not seeing people breaking into your homes. What they're looking for are value, soft, easy targets, stuff your cars. If you leave your car running, they want to go take your car and enjoy it, right? So everybody's seeing Hyundais and Kias are really vulnerable to this exploit. Well, the great thing about it is the minute the news runs with this exploit, that's all we see in the city development is every Hyundai and Kia does not push a start, install it, right? So awareness is great and it also makes everybody. But what we don't want to see is as somebody gets in your car, you take your car, that you challenge that person because the concern is that property crime in terms of and your life and everybody else's life is going to be more than my car. So you guys. No, I think
We thought we were supposed to help the car. And they like.
sure, but as Dan said, and just my name is Dan. So as Dan said, call 24 hours, 7 days a week. That's kind of how this works. That's right.
So are you advising us? I want to make sure. Are you advising us? And I'd love to win. It's the cul-de-sac, the city. When if we see a vehicle circling at 5 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, like I saw, some gentleman walking walking down the street, driving hard. Regardless of whether before the crime is committed, you would like us to call the emergency number and say, there's something that doesn't look right in our neighborhood.
100%. I will tell you that it's my
That's
absolute,
advice I've heard tonight.
yeah, that is my absolute right. Like, so look,
What's that number?
so look, not only now you see that, 4.156K, right? So, look, if they pull over this thing, like, they really, so there's not, there's one room, not emergency, there's not another room attached to emergency stuff, right? What I think is emergency may be different from what you can do. So I don't have an issue with calling that. Well, done the same, lovely people, like said the same, over, answer the same phone call, however.
So what I would say, tell me if I'm wrong. If it's something that's happening right now, you're seeing it. Fine.
Yeah.
If something has happened, the morning of or the night before, call the non-emergency. You need something dispatched immediately. That's what 911.
Absolutely. So give me an example.
Yeah.
A week or so ago, I saw a gentleman walking down with old Brandon. And he stopped and tried the car. I blew my horn at them, they ran. But that would be something that I should call 911 and say, some people are just walking down the street inappropriately.
Well, so I think I'm specific, right? So inappropriately, so I would say, look, we have somebody walking down the street, it's fully door. So so the dispatcher knows, okay, this is a potential crime in progress, trying to break in the car, I'm gonna send a unit now. Now, if you say to my dispatcher, hey, I've got some guy walking down the street, he's acting appropriately, my dispatcher is gonna go, okay, it's gonna go, so we have levels of how we dispatch calls, right? So we have tiers, right? One, two,
Sure, it's
three, four.
inappropriate.
Yes, but be specific to what you say, right? Like, if you have a guy walking down the street with a gun, trying to. I don't know that the guy is not gun. So it's about being, very specific, but I will tell you, we absolutely 100% call, because it may just not affect you, right? So we talked about this canvas accident. So you're saying it's in front of 123 Mockingbird Lane, well, 123 Mockingbird Lane has a ring or another camera. So the hope is that our officer takes the report, and then in the report mentions there's a camera where this guy was being door handled, and we can have a description to that.
And can I just ask, I think what you were trying to ask, what Catherine was trying to ask is there, like, what is the most pertinent thing that we can get on our cameras to share? Is everything important? Or like, if we capture something on camera, like, I think what we talked about is how we use this very efficient. So like, if you just get, I don't know, it's all of that important, like.
So what I'm gonna do, based on some investigative experience, right, what we say is, what I feel is important may be different than what you feel is important, right? So when I'm in court explaining something in regards to a crime that happened on the street, and a shooting or a robbery or something like that, right? You might not feel that that car that drove by 2-3 hours ago was important. However, I know that that car is connected to incidents that just happened in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. Now I can show that he was on the street. So it's important just to let the investigator kind of.
So even if something criminal has happened at your house, but you see something a little suspicious, I think that's what people kind of hesitate.
So you guys
So
have.
like, if we report that, we can say that there's a movie on your grass, where you can send videos to.
Yeah, so you have the P3 app, right? So you can send text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've heard it, but I don't think
So.
that's a tip out.
So we have to tip out, where you can send tips in about suspicious activity, but also you have 2 liaisons to the police department, right? You've got myself, Officer Dreer, so you've got our contact information, so you can send information to us directly if it's something like that you don't want to send to the P3 app, or you don't feel like it rises to the level that you want.
The cool thing with P3 is you can upload video, photos, have a narrative, specific as you want to be anonymous in P3 app, and we have lovely woman that named Joanne, he thinks that matters is all that for us.
So if you have a crime at 123 Mockingbird Lane, you would say to Joanna, hey, did anything come through on the tip line for 123?
Sure, and I may ask,
Way to.
yeah, then I'm probably gonna ask my PIOs to send out that ring that say, if you capture anything on the ring camera, please send it to the 3 app or contact the detectives or call the numbers. Only that's how that's gonna go out. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So what you were speaking about, I think is probably the most interesting thing to say. Since we've been here, is that you identify cars running around. Now, I've only lived in the neighborhood for 3 years, but spent 13 years in Portsmouth. So I used to call them, I had a direct line to the Civic League's office. And I used to call it non-emergency, and I used to do that all the time. Because I notice things all the time. And because there's a lot going on, a lot more than here, a lot scary. But one of the things that we learned and we shared specifically was that we realized that the young people that were doing the crime were working in groups. And so when you were paying attention, which I do as a homeowner, and I definitely look out for my neighbors as well as much older people, I'm always looking out. What I'd love to know is, as you mentioned, you guys know the people who are doing this. What are you seeing in that? Are they working in groups of 3 in a car? Like if we see a group of 3 in a car and they're moving around real slow, is that something to be aware of? Are they walking? Because I know when they do the handles, they work in groups of 3. 1 looks out, 2 pull. I mean, I've seen it happen. I've reported it. I've caught people in Portsmouth.
Sometimes.
So I'd love to know what are we looking for?
Here's the hard one. Yes, there are groups of 1 and 3, groups of 1 and 2, there are single pieces that are out doing this crime. Problem is, we have large groups of people who are committing very similar crimes, and part of the job of me and the detectives that work for me is to try to discern, is this group doing this crime, or this crime, or do we have separate groups? So it's very good rule of thumb, always be on the lookout for more than 1 person, but it's never the rule for any crime is committed. Just know that if a crime is committed, the one best thing you can do, if you're seeing, call 911. You're here 24 hours a day. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this. You may not get an immediate response from the detective, but I guarantee you, one of my guys will be out and will investigate what's going on. The immediate response that we don't get is the uniform officers coming out, and they're the ones who are going to stabilize everything. The best thing for them is to provide them the best information, as much information as you can. And that means being observant. Do not place yourself in the middle of what's going on. Do not draw attention to yourself, because one of the things that we've been saying is there's somebody who's witnessing a crime, they offer record, they draw attention to themselves. You're not doing it. They're not targeting you, but now they know you're there, not become a potential target. So keep yourself safe. That's first and foremost. Captain in on that. Keep yourself safe. And by doing that and not drawing attention to yourself, you're much more valuable to us alive as a witness that can help us, go to court and take these people and put them, in custody and in charge. So
Well, what, can I ask one last follow-up? So what came from all the things that I had to deal with was that I learned that they were young, under 18, and they were doing the works for games. Are we dealing with something similar here?
if that is, I do have a very large active investigation going on across the city. It does cross different city lines. So answers like that, I cannot get. Unfortunately, it is an active investigation.
Yeah, so also keep this in mind, right? So most of the stuff that we see are crimes of opportunity, not organized levels of crime. Right? So I'm not saying that organized levels of crime don't exist anywhere, but what I will say is that the things that we see primarily in Norfolk are crimes of opportunity as it pertains to door handles, cars left running, counting for stuff. So it's kind of twofold, right? So really 3. So hitting on the enforcement, that's us, right? We hit on services, so that's a little bit beyond us. And then we look at ways to prevent crime, right? So some of the things that you're going to work on it. One big thing is catalytic converters. We get the catalytic converters cut out of the cars. So we're looking at programs that, you know, one of two things. Number one is engrave the people's catalytic converters, that can come to this area and do that, or you see them spray paint them in metal. So if you cut it out, there's none of the metal shops around here to take it because it's sprayed in yellow. So those are things that we're looking at to be a little bit more proactive about the crimes that we're seeing. When it comes to stolen cars, full handles, you can see it on our Facebook page every night. I think Will does this like 9 o'clock thing every night at 9 o'clock. He puts this thing on Facebook that says, please lock your car.
So,
Don't leave it back.
So I just got a text here right as the meeting got started. That, last night, one of our neighbors on Armstead got their catalytic converter stolen. I just.
I think the biggest question that people are asking right now is like, what? Basically, the option for people to be passionate about or spray paint it or dead if they want to avoid, you know,
Yeah, so look, unfortunately, I can't look at you and say, hey, if you spray paint your house converter orange, no one's ever going to see your converter, right? Like, I can't tell you that. I wish I could. The only thing it does is it deters.
Yeah.
It makes honest people stay honest when it pertains to buying the metals that are in the back. So the shops that we have in Norfolk, I will tell you, they're very well regulated by both city infrastructure as well as our pawn shop and our folks that do pawn shop stuff. So they're very well regulated. So I'm go out on a bit of a limb and tell you they're not being sold locally here. So we know how many catalytic converters are being stolen in the city of Norfolk. Those catalytic converters are not showing up at our own shops.
Are they going to the nearby ones?
So that's the problem. So we don't know. I can tell you, like, our folks are not taking in catalytic converters. We've asked them not to take in catalytic converters. Yeah, correct. So we've asked them, hey, don't take these in, and they're really cooperative. They're great, right? Because they know that if they're not, we have folks that go in and do shop inspections and pawn inspections, and we're proactive about it.
I have a question more so about with the actually crime as far as the guns, which is very concerning. The gentleman who came home, with his luggage. The gun situation there, down the street from my house, so the painter who was carjacked or attempted carjacking, and then there was one across the way in Ghent where either works at EMS, or goes to school there, walking home, and a guy on a line scooter comes up and pulls the gun out and robs them. So, I mean, what can we do? I think that's how we're all, like, what is being done to protect us as far as and be more control and not very much for what we have right now. I think this for me, I'm asking. I'm a little concerned just going to the gas station or getting in the car and my kids in the car and I'm looking over my shoulder trying to, you know, just be aware of any time. So what can we do? And first for violent crimes like that, I feel like it just is escalated. It's gone from someone's first being stolen off their feet when they're on the way out of their car. And then we get a call, you know, or we get notified that someone's unloading luggage. What are you guys doing?
And I think maybe a segue here too, with this is like the prosecutorial and segment of it, like how are we able to really actively prosecute people who commit crimes like that? Like, are we like the enforcement of, you know, everything and just making sure that people like that have we have pretty good barriers, but are we
So, I'm sorry.
Are we having a challenge?
I'll speak to one about the last period. That person has been arrested.
Okay.
The other issue you talked about happened in July, over by Westover.
Yeah.
So again, this goes back into what we were talking about, paying attention to this round, keeping yourself safe.
Yeah.
Do not approach someone if they're committing a crime. And that's what we're seeing a lot of issues right now, especially some of the violent crime we're dealing with, is people are putting property value over life value and inserting themselves into a situation that causes them to become violent crime.
Certain steps, and you've done the prosecutor, you're reading the guns,
At this point, I don't know, you're still waiting to get some new information.
So everything we do, every product we get, and all gets traced with the owner, and also gets almost. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think to your, it's the question I grapple with as well. I mean, my issue is where does that come from, right?
And again, some of that goes back to people not reporting the loans, but it's still.
Right, so I mean, it is, we can't control our way out of this, right? There's multifaceted elements. Some of it is, it's, you know, beneficially, it's, you know, are we prosecuting, are we letting people in and out?
Yeah.
Or not something, right? Is there, is that, it's a system, and there's a lot of elements to that system.
I think that as far as their content for big control within the last like couple weeks. I haven't seen any of them crying, not being up in the morning. I haven't seen anything since the one on over in Ghent recently. So do you think that it's only in the deterrent? I mean, that's something that is not working?
Sure, I mean, I would say yes, if we see the police car, they're more than likely not going to commit that crime right then and there. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the district cars that cover this neighborhood specifically, again, have been instructed that when they're not on calls for service, to be patrolling in the neighborhood. So to hopefully show that presence so that it pushes the element out of the neighborhood that could be taking those crimes of opportunity.
Which is why we're so actively trying to fill our ranks more so we can help people, right? So it's, you know, increasing the starting pay, it's retention bonus, signing bonus, it's apparently we're giving you all these great mental health.
Yes, it's great.
Well, yeah, that.
But we can't drive it home enough that if you see something going on, contact us, don't approach, be a great witness. This is the same thing that I would tell my wife, I would tell my family, you know, your life is not worth that car, your life is not worth your purse, your life is not worth your ring, it's not worth your watch. Like those are all replaceable things, right? They may have sentimental value, but you know what? I've lost my wedding ring once, and the new one has just as much sentimental value as the other one. So, you know, so you'll have new attachments.
And I'm gonna add this, right? So this is, and I'm gonna say this first. This comes in from a guy that carries a gun from him, and he's done that for 22 years. And that is, do me a favor, please don't fixate on crime, right? Like, head up, live your life. I mean, it really is. Positive to crime is that it rarely affects people. And I don't take anything away from people that have been affected by crime, whether it be property or violent. I'll tell you 100%. I've been violent and property crime, and it is absolutely no fun, right? And it's while I was a policeman, so it has nothing to do with. You guys keep asking me what you can do, right? So I'm going to tell you, you have to understand that people that will take advantage of other people, that's not your fault, right? It's not the gentleman's fault. He got a star. Not. It's people that make decisions in life based on their situational life and take advantage of people. But the worst thing that I think anything you do is feel like you're being victimized by this all the time. That's
And I think that's the goal, is feel like we're in control of like at least our. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what I was thinking. So you might want to add to your slide, how many people you prosecuted to make folks feel better, to feel like, I personally can't do it. So I live in the back of the neighborhood, and 2014, 5 men broke into my home, just totally trash. So I would feel better if I saw a sign that said, and guess what? This crap is happening, but look what we've done to balance the fear of it. So,
And clearance rates too. I mean, I personally understood that, like how many property crimes we saw, like how many homicides are solved, how many larcenies, like, you know, our fundings.
I think, I want to say that sooner after we're done sharing questions and concerns towards maybe a brief discussion on what a neighborhood watch program how that would work between West End and the Norfolk Police Department. So, but I don't want to cut off questions.
What I'm gonna ask, probably the second very well, but, so then how do we make ourselves better parts? Casey's done a great job and she's got the newsletter, you know, we have those things at our house, we've been very lucky, besides having our car rental for about 3 years ago. We haven't had a lot of things, we have lights, we have cameras, we have all these things, but as a neighborhood, like, how do we make ourselves less of a target for these kinds of opportunities? Is it getting a neighborhood watch? Like, how is that the best thing? The next step, what's the next step as we begin with these simple things we're doing for our own property to then make the neighborhood itself?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of all being on the same page. Hey, I mean, I don't know, you guys have a neighborhood app? Right?
I'm just leaves next door.
Yes, next door app, it's like, hey, somebody sent out a text at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, hey, did you lock your doors, right? So, I mean, I'm forgetting too, I don't do that. So, I mean, it's that community mentality, right? So it's mentality of, look, I'm gonna look out for my neighbors, and my neighbors are gonna look out for me. It takes a village, and that is, look, we send out the text at 7 o'clock, it's the same line, hey, all those little things that make a place desirable to be, that says, we are going to look out for you. And that's it. And I think as you do that more and more and more people out in the cars will tell you that most crime is crime opportunity. It's not that.
In the reputation, I think, he sent out an email to all of us saying, hey, they have these devices now where they can replicate your electronic key fob. And is that how people are getting into our cars now, or is it not?
But you're not seeing evidence of that, right? So the great thing is I love to watch the news, right? So they had some guy in CPI 2 or 3 days ago on the news, and they look, they've got transponders that take the cars, and we didn't start about that. And hey, when they're not doing stuff, they're using scramblers to scramble the ring camera. We have not seen that. Right? So,
and it's comforting me.
yeah. So and I will tell you that if we did see that, I mean, that's a level of sophistication that is probably beyond the average guy. It's a little bit beyond the person that is just looking for shit in the car. But I would also say that if I'm going to invest in that technology, such as something that says cameras, I don't want your car. I want the good stuff in your house, right? And you're not seeing that here, right? You're not seeing the increase of those burglaries to residences, which I think is great. It continues to lead us to believe that there's no crimes of opportunity when we're seeing cars like this, and people riding around the neighborhood for cars like this. A car running, unfortunately, that car running turns into somebody gets hurt because to try to stop it. So we're definitely seeing more.
How correlated or is there any correlation that everyone wants to do about that?
Yes, definitely send that to us. Use that P3 app, send it to us, we'll run it through our application squad. Then we'll kind of take a look at the see the correlates to either just some of the neighborhood that likes tagging stuff, or we'll look at something that's more.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes it looks like it's a little like paper and nothing.
Yeah, so I'm not that guy, but we'll try to get about 6 or 7 of those guys.
Yeah, you just. I was just asking how correlated it might be graffiti tagging. Like often you'll see that little tag on the Princess Sam and Brandon on those little reflective signs there. It'll pop up and then it'll go in, somebody they just spray, spray over with the reflective thing to get it rid of it, and then it'll pop back again. Some signs.
But the answer is basically pretty much that one more something without this has. One is our first one, the fire, forum, that goes under tag, and building. It's more of a nuisance fund, and what you're asking is more about is the city.
Yeah, is it?
So I can tell you right now, the majority of it is forum.
But then never said this year. P3 app, send it to us. I'll have my experts look at it, make sure that it's not something.
Yeah, I just said they're small.
The other one is, the other one that's been prevalent, like kind of feedback I've gotten is like Vine scooters and Vine bikes, like we are the whole stack of Norfolk. So it seems like a lot of people are taking one-way trips, even in the neighborhood. So that's something that you guys are. So most larger companies in the continental United States have what's called significant compliance bureau within their business. So with that, they give us what's called the law enforcement portal that allows us to use technology to look at those type of things. So I can tell you that if you have technology that has been left behind or a suspect that we have, we can leverage technology to replace people there or use their records to replace them with them. Is that's pretty nice? Yeah.
And we did want to talk, I can just briefly on neighborhood watch, and I think really, my question is like, so we're doing these kind of porch times specifically. We're asking people on sort of after 5 p.m. on, right now it's Friday and Saturday, just it's a weekend. We're just asking them to try to get on the porch, be in their yard, be outside, do the projects outside here in the street. But we also have an interesting people saying, they watch might be, it has more of a patrol walking element might be really beneficial too. And do you feel like one of those over the other? Do you see a lot of effective thing with watches, or is it just really about having people outside and reporting what they're seeing?
Yeah, I think it's about community. So, whether you call it, fireside chat, come out on the porch, you start a neighborhood watch, whatever you call it. Look, I encourage everybody to walk around. So that's obviously wonderful. But I mean, all these things are really nice names for community, right? So it's community that gets out, it's community that walks down, it's community that walks dogs, it's community that sits there and has wine or beers on the porch, and then hopefully more people out.
But not walking around.
Yeah, so you talk a little bit about, part of their market is based on the amount of people that are, right? But then with that comes probably what's called quality of life stuff, and that is, trash and noise and those kind of things. So if you can find a good balance between quality of life and being respectful of the environment, I think that's the best combination call. People out there, you want to call it whatever you want to call it, it's great. But those things are legitimately community-oriented approaches to fight crime. So once upon a time, the biggest prevalent theory in criminal justice was broken. It no longer exists, right? We can learn from the mistakes of our past, and by just focusing on quality of life crimes, our predecessors made mistakes, our mistakes on how we police areas, right? So we moved away from that for windows. But there is truth to the fact of the quality of life crimes affects the quality of the neighborhood. If the neighborhood itself, right, can affect this quality of life crimes, it makes a huge difference in the overall health of the neighborhood.
And does anybody have anything they want to share with our leaders before they go, or just what would make them feel safer? I'll pull out actually they don't like that, but I think we've kind of covered a lot of bases. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and send it to you guys, but I think we were getting it before we left.
So I have one question. The 1100 block of Westover Avenue has no street lights. I have lived in the neighborhood almost 30 years. I've had a car stolen and have had a innovation. Each time I asked my neighbors on the 1100 block of Westover Avenue, can we get streetlights? And is it still 75% or 100%? Because you have to have, I was told by the city that you had to have a majority or 100% okay to have streetlights installed.
I don't know the answer to that. I know it doesn't relate to parking.
Right.
I do know it's a significant expense, but I also know that we've put a lot of money in our budget to replace all of the streetlights throughout the city. over the next 3 to 5 years of ROP lights, which are much more.
But we don't have any.
That is something that I don't know.
I feel like the civic fleet can help you get to the 75% that you need, even if it's, you know, banging on doors for a day.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, and I get it, it's never happened to you, you're on a dark street, it's nice at night, sitting out on your porch. with no light on. I like that, I care, but until it happens to you, you know, you just turn just like that and go, well, I'm not getting placed up because I don't know.
Mine would be one thank God, you put more light on your house.
So that would be one question about it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it used to be, people would call, I don't know if they call for Virginia Power, when there was a street light out, and we call a number. and
Yeah,
go,
that's on the flyer.
Okay.
So when we talk to report the outage, which request, even I don't know if the street light bulb request is part of the meeting, but was.
Yeah.
It's on our, sorry, I keep saying.
So I do that often, right around my block, I've had several light sticks within a week or two after, after submitting the request, it really doesn't work.
So they do have, they are required. And then we have a 45-day period. If they do not, the city gets required that energy. What we've done, I was in Ghent, we did a light and heat effort, safety, or we follow on. And we go out and we down of each night when we sort of involved, yeah, the city. So I know we have a lot of lights. Yes, some of it's because all of our electric flooded and the wire readings were very good.
So we have less lights out here in West End. There was an effort, I think, several years ago from the civic league, but and we've been approached by the Ghent League several times to participate in that, but frankly, we just really don't.
It's not a big issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue when they're out, but I think people got the message, because any of the streetlights that I see out have that green tag on the pole, which means someone's recording.
What about it? There's, like our street light across the street, like a big huge tree branch growing over it. So as far as like at night, stop and get it all right. So we would be all like the city.
Yeah,
It's a city tree.
yeah, but. No. Yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe a picture, you know. I have the answer.
I will take a city artwork, it's the most 311%. And we, all of that, for this. I'll figure it out.
The street lights, you have to wait for the thing to go out. They start operating erratically and these the bulbs failing, and you can call them in and help replace that.
So, I did, I have not heard anybody, I met a lot on the automobiles, they determined that. Two cars,
I love that. Put it up, write it down. You guys don't know what he's talking about.
All right, so the way we kind of view the Casey's idea about the Fortnite is kind of dipping our toes into what we thought would be a form of neighborhood watch that is kind of entry level neighborhood watch, right? It's just, hey, sit out in your front yard instead of your backyard and enjoy your glass of wine in the late afternoon and evening. And by the way, you have neighbors who all time. Because it is a very sleepy neighborhood. That's why a lot of us are it's very quiet. Listen out there. The doors open. We haven't been interrupted here, right? So but I think that's one, and it doesn't require a lot of coordination. It doesn't require skills of volunteers and block actors. right? And we're gonna try this on for size for a while and see what it does. So what I would just really appreciate is to encourage your neighbors to participate in it. And then, if we feel like we want to amp it up and get a little more organized, or cover different hours, then we can go to the next level. But all of this takes community involvement by the people of this neighborhood, right? And so we're trying to find that balance between quality of life, of living in a beautiful city and a beautiful neighborhood, and not having to feel like we're guarded, right? So we're gonna find that sweet spot, and if you have other creative ideas, we're all ears.
Wes, it's WGCLsafety@gmail.com, and that puts you right in touch with me. It's on the flyer, which are all the way out. I really need help handing out flyers. So if anybody wants to spend 30 minutes walking your block and taking them up, email me at that email. Oh, it's WGCLsafety@gmail.com. And I believe that's our newsletter, so.
And if you send it to me back to them,
Or the back email to the yeah.
whatever email is question. Yeah, we will get it to you. I wonder if we could, on that same thing, I wonder if we could deal with people that work from outside, when they can work from home on certain days. So I've been working in, it's just, I'm working in the dining room, so I can see out because it's during the day. So my prime time during the day are the times we're having now during the day. So I wonder if we just start talking about work from home or whatever, just out on the street and go to your mailbox, just looking around, because if that's the crime is happening, then now that we should have more eyes.
Yeah. Again, oh, I just wanted to say, this is just our help. If you just want to take a look at it, we should talk about it.